Hi, Bill Oxidean here. You guys haven't heard from me in videos for a while. I've been busy preparing all the boats that came in our new shipment and developing products that can make all of your boats better. Well, now people are receiving their boats in the mail, and you wonder, what do I do? How do I trim this? How do I set that up? You've got a box with parts and stuff you have to put on. Well, now I'm going to do an instructional video on how to do both the Animal and the Dominator. So just stay tuned as long as this cat lets me. Well, this evening I'm going to show you guys exactly how to get your boat going in some basic settings, and I'll show you how to take it from there, because essentially this is your model and this is what you want to let your imagination run wild with. But within certain parameters, it's a user's preference, and in certain parameters I don't want this cat to attack me. Here I am, an Oxidean customer, patiently waiting. I've been seeing all the ads, I've been seeing Bill on Facebook, I've been seeing other customers on Facebook. I'm waiting for my boat just so patiently. I can't wait till my Dominator Animal comes. Oh my goodness, is that USPS? I think my Animal and Dominator are here. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Can't wait to dig in. And with the magic of Hollywood, suddenly USPS brings us the package right in the middle of the video. Thank you, USPS. This appears to me to be a Dominator. Let's crack on into it. Okay, we've got our parts bag. We're gonna get straight to business. Let's start pulling stuff out. We've got a rudder bracket, shaft, rudder itself, steering rod, turn fins, a set of Allen wrenches to take care of the job. And in this bag we've got our prop, strut nose, boot, pickups, bullet prop nut, and a few zip ties. Okay, the first thing I'm going to have you guys address, I'm going to have you install the strut nose. It's one of the more difficult things to install. So you're going to have 2 screws on either side here and 2 screws here on this post. So I want you to remove all of the screws. Just these 4 that I'm showing you. Remove them. And you can do it quick and easily with the ball end of the provided wrench. Now we're going to install the strut nose to the boat. Note the hole here and this post here. We're going to slide the strut on. And these side holes, we're going to slide it on until these holes line up. Then we're going to insert this adjuster post into here. Okay, now that the strut nose is installed, you want to start up here with the adjuster. You want to get the adjuster into this groove here and line these holes up like so. Then you want to place the Allen screw into the adjuster like so. To get a straight angle, I'm going to ask you to use the L end of the wrench and tighten it, get it started and get it more moving. With the ball end of your L wrench, you want to get this screw started. Just get it started, but make sure it's not cross-threaded at an angle. Okay, now it's time to address these lower mounting holes. As you see, the hole can be a little bit off alignment because of the adjustment, which is all done here in the tensioner. With the tensioner, you can screw in and adjust this until the strut moves to the point where the hole starts lining up better. As you see, as I turn it, the hole is lining up more and more as I put tension on it. Okay, now that you've got it lined up, I'm going to ask you again to use your L end of the wrench, not the ball end. As tempting as it may be because of the angle, use the L end because you don't want to misalign this area. And once you do both sides, don't tighten either one, not even the tensioner, none of them. Don't do anything super tight, just get them snug. Okay, now here I'm going to show you the magic everyone wonders, how to adjust the strut. Okay, this step, you're going to need a ruler or a straight edge. You're going to take the ruler or straight edge and line it up on the keel of the boat. See, on the keel of the boat, the actual center line of the boat. This is the keel. You're going to line that up on here. And then you take it, and when you have it perfectly parallel to the keel, perfectly matched to the keel, you look at the gap. Look at the gap right in here between the ruler and the strut. And you look at that gap, and you can tell if it's at an angle. Looking closely, you can see this one's slightly pointed down, like the tip of the end of the strut nose is pointed down. That will give you a negative attitude. So I'm going to adjust the adjuster. I'm going to tighten the tension on it until it raises the strut nose up. I want it parallel with the keel. So I want that gap in there to be even. If you see towards the rear, the gap is a little bit wider. But in towards the front, it gets narrower. Towards the front here. Towards here, bigger gap, and it tapers off. That shows you, like I said, that the strut is pointed down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to tighten on this adjuster. Then we're going to go back and check it. It's just about parallel. It needs to go a little bit more, but you see what I'm getting at. Okay, you'll find at the base of the tensioner these nuts. To lock the tensioner in place, you just secure these nuts. They're anchor nuts. Like so. Now it's locked in position. Then after you've done all those tension adjustments, you go back and thoroughly snug all these strut bolts, top and lower. And now you've got your strut nose fully adjusted. Next, we're going to install our rudder bracket. You're going to need your M3 L wrench, and you're going to need a box wrench for the nuts inside. So instead of boxed in wrench, I'm going to be using this really awesome tool that my factory actually made for me that goes inside of transoms in here. It's actually a flex cable that I can take care of the transom with. So what we're going to do first is we're going to remove all the screws that are just anchored here in place. Wrench. So to get it started, you're going to put your rudder bracket here. Anchor these two screws in. Then you're going to line the screw back up. Screw it in from both sides. Lower. Then you're going to do the upper. Then you line up. Next, you make sure the washers are installed as this one's starting to slide off. Line up. Let's start the second set of screws. Once those are in, your rudder bracket is installed. Next, we're going to install the rudder blade. Okay, clearly this is where your rudder goes. You're going to take your 3mm, remove it completely, slide your rudder in, replace your 3mm, tighten it snug. Now you're going to take your 2.5, and now you're going to start torquing that in. This rudder has a breakaway feature. Now this top one is the one you want to get nice and tight. If I can just get it in the groove. This one nice and tight. I mean, not gorilla tight, but get it plenty tight. There's no nuts on the back. Voila, your rudder's installed. Next on our roster is the water pickups. Now it's pretty self-explanatory where these pickups go. Okay, see the slanted edge? The slanted edge is going to be facing forward. And you're going to use your 2mm wrench. Make sure it's backed out enough to get it in there. And just kind of secure it in and snug like that for now. Let's get the second one in there. This is secured in kind of snug for now. Now we're going to do the fine adjustment. Okay, now this tip here, we're adjusting it to just where it hits right here. Just barely meets. Barely meets. That's all it takes to pick up water. It barely meets. You don't want it deeper because it's going to affect the handling of the boat and it'll create a lot of drag. But right here, you'll pick up water. And you're going to do that on both sides. You can do that on both sides where it just meets. Where it just meets. We're going to straighten out to where the slanted ends are facing perfectly forward. Again, where it just meets. And when you run the boat, you're going to check the holes. You're going to check these holes to make sure water's coming out. If they're not, you don't see water spraying out nicely, then you're going to see slightly, just a hair deep in these, just a hair. Okay, now I'm going to show you guys how to adjust the trim tabs to a nice setting to start off. You're busting out your ruler again, okay? It's going to be flat to the bottom of the boat. Then you're going to look at this gap here. If you look right in there, you see about a millimeter. Just about a millimeter from the ruler. That's exactly where you want it. On both the turning side and the ride side. It's just that tiny, tiny little gap right there. And you're going to do that on both sides. Just rudder away. See. You're going to do that on both sides. And that's where you want it. And you're going to adjust those via these tensioners. And again, you're going to adjust the plates via these tensioners. You loosen the nut and get the plate where you want it. Then you cinch the nut to lock it in place, just like you're adjusting valves on your hot rod. Now, once you've greased your shaft, you're going to make sure the flat spots are facing up, because they're going to line up with these flat spots in here. And you're going to slide your shaft in. Well, first, you want to make sure these set screws are backed out just a little bit. You want to make sure they're backed out enough that you don't impede the shaft from going in. Now, a good way with ours to tell if the flat spot's up, we make our flat spot on our drive dog match the flat spots in the set screws here. So you can always tell if your flat spots are up by looking where your set screw is on your drive dog. Now you're gonna watch in here, and you're gonna look, and you can see your flat spots coming through. You can see them coming through. Okay, snug it all the way up into there. A lot of times it wants to be pulled out just slightly. Then simply gonna secure both of your set screws. Then you're gonna turn it to the L side. You're gonna cinch them down. You don't need to gorilla tighten them on there because it's flat spotted, and this is to eliminate slippage completely. So you get it on there nice and tight, but again, you don't need any Loctite. You don't need anything crazy. Just get them on there tight, and you'll be fine. Okay, we don't leave some kind of excessive huge gap right here. There's a huge myth that that the cable shrinks up so much that it takes up this gap. Our cables are great and they don't have a lot of shrinkage. So you're gonna have a little bit of the gap there. You see just a tiny bit, because there is a little bit of motor play, and that's to compensate for that. But things won't line up if you put a big jackass gap in there, like a lot of these misconceptions and myths that are out there on some of these pages. So to do the steering, to line it up, I'm gonna have you remove this piece here. So what I'm gonna have you do is take the steering rod and slide it in there slightly so it doesn't, to anchor it. Remove the back of it. Okay, with this removed, it's easier to work with. You're gonna take a 1.5 millimeter and just have a tiny bit sticking out on the end. I'm gonna have you secure this. Again, not gorilla tight, but definitely not nice and snug, because you don't want your steering slipping, but you also don't want to strip out this tiny little screw. Now you've got your steering boot. I'm going to connect your steering boot to the adjusted outlet. Now that your boot's installed, you're going to go ahead and slide your rod through the hole, fish it through carefully, and make sure not to poke any of these ribs as you're going through. Make sure it gets clean through. Slide that through. As you're sliding it through, you're going to line it up with the anchor screw on here. And you often need to back this out a little bit, just a tad, to make sure this goes in. Now you're back over here. You're gonna make sure this clevis goes in. You're gonna secure that screw back on. Then you're gonna line your boot up so it's not getting extended, because you're gonna watch your range of motion. You want your boot somewhere in the middle to where it's not pulled super out or pushed super in. So you're gonna try to center your servo horn straight up and down like this as much as possible, straight up and down in the vertical position. Then you're gonna try to straighten your rudder out as much as you can here. Then you go ahead and tighten this set screw. Voila, your steering linkage is set up. You'll do your fine tuning later with your radio, which we'll go over in another video. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's deal with these drive shafts first. Okay, to tell the orientation of which prop goes on which shaft, because it is very specific. Okay, you want to look at the diagonal crossings of the cable itself and the angle of the props. You want them to match. How this is going at this angle, you've got this angle on the blades, you've got this angle on the cables. That's what you want. So these two match. Stick on there, that on there, we'll tighten it. And of course you're going to tighten that with a wrench later. Then we're going to take a look at this. See this prop? See this angle of the thread? We're going to match the prop with that angle of the thread. We'll install our prop again. Tighten that. We're going to insert our nylon washers. Like so. Now we're going to install our shafts. We're going to lube the shaft or squirt it in there, whichever way you'd like to go about it. And remember, the props rotate inward. They rotate inward towards each other. So we're going to take this prop, and to know we have the right angle, we're going to make an X on a deck like that. And notice the angle of the prop is parallel, perpendicular to that. So we're going to slide it in, and remember, just like on our Dominator, the orientation is up. You can see that our flat spots match the upside here. Just slide it in, and these have no set screws in there already. And it can be a little tough the first time to get in, but we get it in there, and notice we can line the flat spots up with the holes in there. We're lining the flat spots up with the holes. Get them lined up, see? Now, we go back to our bag, and we get our set screws. And those are going to be set in with your 2mm. Now, we've got our 2mm set screws. Sit on there like that. You don't want it falling off. You want to be very careful as you come over to here. So it's in an angle. Oh, that one changed angle on me a little bit. Get straight on there. Get it started. Just get it slightly snug. And you get one more of these set screws. Cinch it down there and snug. Then you tighten it, and again, you do not need to gorilla tighten it. Tighten in there. Voila. Do the same thing to the other side over here. And you're there. And the rule of thumb, when you have it all set up and everything, before you put it in the water to know whether you have the right orientation of the props, you want to rev it up and hold your hand about 3 feet back from it. Rev the engine, and you should feel wind. If you feel wind blowing on your hand, you've got it set up right. Alright, now it's time to get focused on the steering. So we're going to come here to the servo. First thing we're doing is remove the servo. Horn from the servo. Loosen this horn up. Just a little bit. Comes out like so. There you go. Now that we've removed the servo horn, we're going to take the servo rods and thread them into here. And remember, just only leave a little butt on the end. Here you're only leaving a little bit on the end. 1.5 mil. Get those decently tight. And you're going to do the other side. Thread that in. Just a little butt of it sticking out. Snug that down. Cinch that down. Gotta get it like that. Voila. Next, you're going to be threading the steering linkage to be coming out of these two holes. and we have a little trick. Now the easiest way to do this is to look into these holes and line the rods up. While you're looking for the holes, you can see there on the inside. Yes, this is how the assembly will look when you first thread them through. Next, you want to realign the horn back on the servo. And if you haven't twisted the servo much, it should be just as straight as it was. Get that back on. Replace the set screw. And you're there on that step. Next, we're going to attach this rudder. Okay, one thing that needs a lot of attention paid to, that a lot of people overlook, is there is a set screw in here that anchors this pedestal. You can go in there with a 2mm and you're going to tighten that. You can get that pretty tight because that takes a lot of torque. I mean, it takes a lot of stress. And you don't want that thing backing out on you. When it backs out on you, it freezes up the steering and then you think something's wrong with the servo. Moving forward with the steering, we've got our boots, we've got our set screws, and we've got our pin. So we're going to take these set screws and take our 2mm and just get them started here. Here's another set screw. Now that you've got these set screws started, now let's pay attention to this pin. This pin has a flat spot on it, and ours has a hood on it, so you don't lose it. It's sliding out the bottom. Okay, first pay attention to the set screw back here. Make sure it's backed out enough, just enough. Then you're going to make sure these thread in the wheel first. You're going to install your boots. And just jump the gun there. Get your boots on solder. Skirts. We'll put the zip ties on later just to move this project forward. But we are going to be putting zip ties on these boots to secure it. Okay. Now, we'll make sure these thread into there. Hold this secure with this here. You take the hinge pin, remembering there's a flat spot, and that's going to face frontward to match. We're going to somewhat hold the pin like this. We're going to turn the assembly to the side like that. Okay, hold it to the side like that. We're going to come in with our 2mm. We're going to tighten this. Make sure it's all the way done. Tighten this when you get nice and tight. Not gorilla tight, but you want it pretty darn tight because, again, you do not want this set screw backing out, because if and when this set screw backs out, it jams things up in here. You don't want things jammed up in there. But that takes all the mystery out of your steering. So next, we're going to take the mystery out of how do we install the water pickup. Okay, we've got these little tubes, brass tubes. They slide down in these holes, but you got to kind of sometimes adjust them so they go into the silicone tube underneath. But with a little bit of negotiating, you can get them all. Like so. And remember, the slanted end is pointing forward. Now, as far as depth of the pickups, again, you're going to use your ruler. You want the tip of the pickup, you want the ruler flush with the ride surface over here. Ruler flush with the ride surface in this area. But you want the very tip right with the ruler and the ride surface. That's where you want to start. Ruler flat here. No lower because it will create too much drag, but that's the optimal setting. Okay, your next adjustment is going to be with the out drives. This set screw here. You're not going to adjust anything. What you're looking to adjust generally is this gap. Right in here. This gap. But our boats come from the factory with the gap preset. All you're going to do is with your 1.5, tighten it. Make sure that's tightened on both sides. And generally check over all the screws. And that's with any RC boat ready to run. Go for all the screws, make sure everything's good. And with your water pickups, these are the set screws to set the adjustment. Make sure everything's tight in the drives, all the screws, and you're ready to go. Now, one thing I don't want you guys to forget about is flotation. You're going to use just your regular pool noodle, which should have been included with your boat, which very likely was. If not, always just use run-of-the-mill dollar store pool noodle. You want to stuff as much noodle in the nose as possible, and not a parody noodle in the nose. Stuff as much noodle in there as possible on your Dominator. All up in the bow. The Animal Cat, same thing. Get lots of foam under the deck. Well, now you've got your basic setup guide to get these beautiful boats going. And we're going to have more videos that show more in depth, more tuning, and a lot more advanced settings on the boats. We're going to go into programming with the radio, with the ESCs, a lot of different things, tuning for different water conditions. And congratulations on your purchase of an Oxidean marine boat. Remember, everything starts as soon as you get the boat home. Our customer service is excellent, and any questions, give us a call. And remember, join our Facebook group, Passion for RC Boats. Wow. Oh my God. Okay. Remember, join our Facebook group, Passion for RC Boats. It's a great place to share your ideas, share your projects, ask questions, and get unbiased answers. And we don't have a lot of bickering or any type of bullying or anything that'll discourage you from showing us what's going on and asking you questions. Again, congrats on your purchase of an Oxidean marine boat, and